Good day everyone. We are Group 9 and we're going to talk about the NETA or International Electric Testing Association. I'm with my group mates Arikais Antesa Marika Aba, Labrador Marty, Sabio Van Gian Ying, and yours truly Wood Maisalan. First, the table of contents. We're going to talk about the Sections 1, which is the general scope. Section 3, qualifications of testing organization and personnel. Section 4, division of responsibility. Section 5, general. Section 7, inspection and test procedures. Okay, to start, first, general scope. These specifications cover the suggested fields and inspections that are available to assess the suitability for initial energization and final acceptance of electrical power equipment and system. Well, first dito sa general scope, ito lang parang kumbaga summary in general of NETA. Second, the purpose of these specifications is to assure that tested electrical equipment and systems are operational, are within applicable standards and manufacturers' tolerances, and are installed in accordance with design specifications. So yun nga, NETA's purpose is to assure that na yung mga electrical equipments natin are in good conditions. Also the designs. Next is third, the work specified in these specifications may involve hazardous voltages, materials, operations, and equipment. These specifications do not purport to address all of the safety issues associated with their use. It is the responsibility of the user to review all applicable regulatory limitations prior to the use of these specifications. Okay. Next one, the section 3, which is qualifications of testing organization and personnel. 3.1, testing organizations. First, testing organization shall be an independent third-party entity which can function as an unbiased testing authority, professionally independent of the manufacturers, suppliers, and installers of equipment or system being evaluated. So, dito sa testing organizations na to, kumbaga, ito yung group na kung saan mas, um, ano ba, sila yung nagte-test ng mga equipments na ginagamit natin. Then, second, the testing organization shall be regularly engaged in the testing of electrical equipment devices, installations, and systems. Yes nga, as I have said, kumbaga, personally, sila yung mga nagtetest ng mga devices na kung paano natin sila ini-install and anong klase ng systems yung mga meron sila. Third, the testing organization shall use technicians who are regularly employed for testing services. Same lang din sa sinabi ko kanina. An organization having a designation of NETA, accredited company issued by the International Electrical Testing Association meets above criteria. So, ayun, sila yung nagde-designate ng NETA sa mga accredited companies na napasok dun sa criteria na sinaset nila. The fifth one is the testing organization shall submit appropriate documentation to demonstrate that it satisfactorily complies with this requirement. Sila yung mga nagbibigay ng mga formal paper na nagpapakita na nagko-comply sila dun sa sinet na requirements ng NETA. 3.2, the testing personnel. First is technicians performing these electrical tests and inspections shall be trained and experienced concerning the apparatus and systems being evaluated. These individuals shall be capable of conducting the test in a safe manner and with complete knowledge of the hazard involved. Yun pa lang. Dapat itong mga personnel na to, sila yung mas knowledgeable dun sa ginagawa nila, which is yung mga technicians natin or yung mga electricians natin na sila yung involved doon sa activity na gagawin na mas nakakaalam kung paano gamitin yung equipments and facilities and kung saan dapat gamitin. Second, technicians shall be certified in accordance with ANSI or NETA ETT standard for certification of electrical testing technicians. Each on-site crew leader shall hold a current certification level 3 or higher in electrical test. Kumbaga, dito sa second one, ito yung standard na sineset nila para masabi na certified yung technicians na naka-assign as a testing personnel. Kailangan may certification, tapos kumbaga yung level 3 or higher yung skills niya pagdating sa electrical testing. Next one is the 4.1, which is the owner's representative. The owner's representative shall provide the testing organization with the following. Kumbaga ito ang ang mga sineset na standards kung ano yung mga dapat nilang i-provide. First one, a short circuit analysis, a coordination study, and a protective device setting sheet as described in section 6. So later makakita nyo. Second, a complete set of electrical plans and specifications including all change orders. Kumbaga na doon din yung mga ipapabago din nila kung meron man. Next, drawings and instruction manuals applicable to the scope of work. Doon, included na siya doon sa set ng electrical plans na nandun kung paano yung kung nandun yung mga manuals and instructions. Fourth, an itemized description of equipment to be inspected and tested. Yan, ay an itemized description. Ibig sabihin, nandun nakalagay kung ano yung equipment na itetest, kung anong klase ng equipment at kung para saan. 5. A determination of who shall provide a suitable and stable source of electrical power to each test site. Yan, kung sino ang tao na dapat nandoon sa test site na yun. 6. A determination of who shall perform certain preliminary low voltage insulation resistance, continuity, and low voltage motor rotation test prior to in addition to test specified herein. Okay, next one. For number 7, notification of when equipment becomes available for acceptance tests. Work shall be coordinated to expedite project scheduling. So, ayun, dapat notified sila kung kailan gagawin yung test para coordinated yung araw na yun para dun sa pag-test ng mga projects. 8. Site-specific hazard notification and safety training. So, ayan, dapat yung site environmental friendly siya para dun sa equipments na itetest and tested na yung environment na yun for safety para sa mga equipments na itetest. Next is 4.2, the testing organization. The testing organization shall provide the following. So, ito yung mga dapat nilang i-provide. First, all field technical services, tooling, equipment, instrumentation, and technical supervision to perform such tests and inspections. So, ayan, dapat mai-provide nila na lahat ng services na pinaprovide nung mga nasabi like tooling, equipment, instrumentation, and others. Second, specific power requirements for test equipment. So, lahat naman ng mga equipments na ginagamit natin ay may specific na laki ng power na kailangan para gumana and para din maiwasan natin yung mga disgrasya. Third, notification to the owner's representative prior to commencement of any testing. So, ayun, dapat notified din yung owner's representative once na gagawin na natin yung testing. Fourth, a timely notification of any system, material, or workmanship that is found deficient based on the results of the acceptance test. So, ayun, dapat yung pag na-notify natin sa kanila is updated lagi and kailangan mas makita dun na based dun sa ay na dapat dun based dun sa testing is makahanap tayo ng result na magiging acceptable dun sa ginawang test. Fifth, a written record of all tests and final reports. So, ayun, yung lahat ng mga formal paper is kailangan masubmit. Next is 5.1, safety and precautions. All parties involved must be cognizant of industry standard safety procedures. This document does not contain any procedures including specific safety procedures. It is recognized that an overwhelming majority of the tests and inspections recommended in these specifications are potentially hazardous. Individuals performing these tests shall be qualified and capable of conducting the test in a safe manner and with complete knowledge of the hazards involved. Kagaya nga nung sinabi ko kanina, yung testing personals natin, hindi lang basta-basta yung mga taong gumagawa ng mga test na to. Kumbaga sila yung mga certified na tao with high levels of skills and mga may certification. Number 1. Safety practices shall include but are not limited to the following requirements. First, all applicable provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, particularly OSHA 29 CFR Part 1910 and 29 CFR Part 1926. Second, ANSI or NFPA 70E, Standard for Electrical Safety in the Workplace. Third, applicable state and local safety operating procedures. And fourth, owner safety practices. 2. The testing organization shall have a designated safety lead person on site to supervise operations with respect to safety. So ayun nga, from the organizations, yung testing organization, that may isang tao na nandun na magsaserve as a supervisor for the supervision nung gagawin nating testing. 3. A job hazard analysis and a safety briefing shall be conducted prior to the commencement of work. So ayun, before gawin yung testing, kailangan informed yung lahat, dapat na-brief yung lahat kung ano yung gagawing test para din safe lahat ng nandun sa area. Fourth, all tests shall be performed with the apparatus de-energized and grounded except where otherwise specifically required to be ungrounded or energized for certain tests. So ayun nga, kapag kailangan lahat ng test natin is de-energized. Kumbaga, pwedeng off siya, ganyan, unless kailangan. The testing organization shall have a designated safety representative on the project to supervise operations with respect to safety. These individuals may be the same person described in 5.1.2. So, same lang kagaya doon sa sinabi ko sa number 2 is kailangan mayroong isang tao na certified na nandun para mag-supervise dun sa mga gagawing testings. Next one is 5.2, suitability of test equipment. First, all test equipment shall meet the requirements in section 5.3 and be in good mechanical and electrical condition. So, syempre, bago naman natin tinatest yung mga materials natin, tinitingnan natin if may mga defects ba siya na pwede mag-cause ng disgrasya or failure dun sa testing na gagawin natin. Second, field test metering used to check power system meter calibration must be more accurate than the instrument being tested. So, ayun, as I have said, yung gagamitin natin is yung field test metering. Field test metering na para mas malaman natin kung yung power system ba is accurate, is enough para dun sa instrument na itatest natin kasi kailangan siya yung mas accurate dun sa gamit na itatest natin. Third, accuracy of metering in test equipment shall be appropriate for the test being performed. So, ayun nga, dapat accurate siya dun sa gagawin nating testing. Ang fourth, wave shape and frequency of test equipment output waveform shall be appropriate for the test to be performed and equipment to be tested. So, same as the other lang, kailangan accurate siya dun sa gagawin natin. 5.3, the test instrument calibration. The testing organization shall have a calibration program which assures that all applicable test instruments are maintained within rated accuracy for each test instrument calibrated. So, ayun, dapat kailangan meron nung calibration program na makikita na yung rate ng accuracy dun sa instrument na itetest natin is enough lang. Second, the firm providing calibration service shall maintain up-to-date instrument, calibration instructions, and procedures for each test instrument calibrated. Ibig sabihin ng up-to-date is kailangan lang is continuous yung parang pag-maintain sa kanya para anytime na gagawin yung test is anong tawag dito? Is meron tayong updates kung ano yung current na situation nung itetest natin. Third, the accuracies shall be directly traceable to the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So, ayun, dapat nakikita siya dun sa NIST. Fourth, instruments shall be calibrated in accordance with the following frequency schedule. A. Field instruments, analog and digital, which is 12 months maximum. B. Laboratory instruments, 12 months maximum. And least specialty equipment, which is also 12 months maximum. Fifth, dated calibration label shall be visible on all test equipment. So, kailangan hindi man siya yung literal na nakadikit dun sa equipment na itetest, at least merong indication ng date kung kailan siya calibrated. 6. Records which show date and results of instruments calibrated or tested must be kept up to date. So, ayun yung sinabi ko kanina, kailangan is recorded ang mga informations kung kailan kinalibrate yung equipment or kailan siya tinest. 7th is calibrating standard shall be of better accuracy than that of the instrument tested. So, ayun lang din yun. 5.4, the test report. 1. The test report shall include the following. So, ito na yung pinaka-report nung, kumbaga yung formal paper nung instrument na itetest or ikakalibrate natin. 1 is summary of the project. So, what is the project all about, and the summary of the results, the test that we did. Second is description of equipment tested, kung ano yung equipment na tinest natin. Third is description of test, kung ano yung test na ginawa natin. Fourth, device settings, kung ano yung settings ng equipments na gagamitin na tinetest natin. Fifth is test data, kung ano yung mga data na nakuha natin dun sa test na ginawa natin. And 6, analysis and recommendation. Kumbaga dito na natin makikita yung kumbaga analysis nung na ginawa natin right after the test and kung ano yung marirecommend natin dun sa instrument or equipment na tinest natin. Second, test data record shall include the following minimum requirements. Ito naman yung mga requirements na dapat nasa test data natin. First, identification of testing organization. Yung nabanggit ko kanina is what kind of organization yung ginamit, what testing organization. Second, equipment identification. Dapat na-identify din dito kung ano yung equipment. Third, nameplate data. Yun nga, yung sa equipment natin, ano yung specific na tawag sa kanya. Fourth, humidity, temperature, and other conditions that may affect the results of the test and or calibrations. Dito yung sinabi ko yung kailangan matest natin yung equipments right before the test. Doon natin makikita kung ano yung mga other conditions na possible na naka-affect dun sa makukuha nating results after the calibrations. Fifth, date of inspections, tests, maintenance, and or calibrations. So, doon dapat nasa test data records din natin kung kailan in-inspect, kailan tinest, kailan huling minentain, or kailan siya kinalibrate. Six, identification of the testing technician. Yun kailangan makita doon na naka-indicate doon kung sino yung testing technician na nag-supervise, kung ano yung naging role niya during the test. Seventh, indication of inspections, tests, maintenance, or calibrations to be performed and recorded. So ayun, kagaya na sinabi ko, kailangan nakalagay doon na ano yung in-inspect natin during, after, or before the test. Doon sa test, doon sa maintenance na ginawa natin, and sa calibration na ginawa natin. 8. Indication of expected result when calibrations are to be performed. Kumbaga, dito, dapat nakalagay din ko ano yung ina-expect natin once na na-perform na yung calibration. 9. Indication of as found and as left results as applicable. 10. Identification of all test results outside of specified tolerances. Kumbaga, ano yung mga out of the box na test results na nangyari na labas dun sa ina-expect natin. Element is sufficient spaces to allow all results and comments to be indicated. Yan, kung may other comments lang, kailangan indicated din siya doon. Okay, number 3, the testing organization shall furnish a copy or copies of the complete report as specified in the acceptance testing contract. Kailangan meron ding copy yung testing organizations nung netong testing report na gagawin natin. 5.5, the test decal. 1. The testing organization shall affix a test decal on the exterior of equipment or equipment enclosure of protective devices after performing electrical tests. So, ayun, dapat kailangan ma-check pa rin yung mga ginamit na exterior equipment na ginamit natin once na ginawa natin yung testing. Kailangan ma-make sure pa rin natin na equip yung mga equipment natin. The test decal shall be color-coded to communicate the condition of maintenance for the protective device. Color scheme for condition of maintenance of overcurrent protective device shall be A. White, electrically and mechanically acceptable, which is passed. B. Yellow, minor deficiency not affecting fault detection and operation, but minor electrical or mechanical condition exists. Kumbaga, mga minor problems lang na pwede nating ma-encounter. Yellow yung color scheme na para doon. And C, red, deficiency exists affecting performance not suitable for service. Yung red naman na color scheme is yung talagang pwedeng hindi na siya gumagana, or yung defect niya is hindi suggestible or recommendable na gamitin pa yung equipment. Number 3, the decal shall include A. Testing organization, kagaya nung nabanggit kanina. B is project identifier, what's the project all about. C, test date, kailan ginawa yung testing. And D, technician identifier, who's the testing personnel for that decal. Okay. 7.1, switch gear and switchboard assemblies. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. Number 1. Compare equipment, nameplate data with the drawings and specifications. Wait lang, hold on. Okay. Ta 2, inspect physical and mechanical condition. Siyempre, sa lahat naman ng ginagawa natin, the first thing that we did is that we're doing is ina-inspect natin yung physical and mechanical condition ng mga materials natin. Third, inspect anchorage, alignment, grounding, and required area clearances. Kung saan natin gagamitin yung materials is which kailangan dun sa specific area lang. Fourth, verify the unit is clean and all shipping bracing, loose parts, and documentation shipped inside cubicles have been removed. So, yun, kailangan mas, laging malinis, walang loose parts, and all the documentations na nakalagay is kailangan ma-remove bago natin siya gamitin. Fifth, verify the fuse and circuit breaker sizes and types correspond to drawings and coordination study, as well as to the circuit breaker's address for microprocessor communication packages. So, 'di ba, syempre sa mga circuit breaker sizes natin, may mga specific circuit breaker sizes na kailangan para sa mga kind ng materials na papaganahin natin para maiwasan natin na mag-short circuit or mag-cause ng big accidents. 6, verify that current and voltage transformer ratios corresponds to drawings. When you say na yung drawings, kumbaga yun yung pinaka standard. Kailangan make sure natin na yung current and voltage transformer is enough or the same dun sa hinihingi, dun sa sinasabing drawings. 7, verify that wiring connections are tight and that wiring is secure to prevent damage during your routine operation of moving parts. So, ayun, kailangan ma-make sure natin na there are no, sa mga wirings natin na walang cut yung mga wires natin to make sure na may iwasan natin yung mga damage yung pagka-damage ng equipments ay yung incidents during na nagbo-move na yung equipments na ginagamit natin. 8, inspect bolted electrical connections for high resistance using one or more of the following method. First, use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.1b1. Second, verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connections by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. Later, makikita niyo po yun. And third, perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Ninth, verify operation and sequencing of interlocking system. 10. Verify appropriate lubrication on moving current carrying parts and on moving and sliding surfaces. So, ayun, kailangan ma-make sure natin na nagmo-move ng maayos yung mga parts yung mga moving parts, especially kung may mga gears yan para maiwasan natin yung pagka-stuck ng mga equipments and mag-cause pa ng damage dun sa equipments. 11, inspect insulators for evidence of physical damage or contaminated surfaces. Kailangan mas makita natin kung may mga physical damage pa siya or may mga contaminated surfaces. 12, verify correct barrier and shutter installation and operation. So, ayun, kailangan ma-make sure din natin na correct yung barrier and shutter installation and operation na i-execute natin. 13th, exercise all active components. 14, inspect mechanical indicating devices for correct operation. Kailangan yung mga gagamitin natin or yung mga indicated devices natin is gagamitin natin dun sa tamang operation or sa tamang activity na gagawin natin. 15, verify that filters are in place and vents are clear. So, ayun, kailangan natin ng safe place sa mga gagawin natin. So, kailangan lahat are in place and clear. 16. Perform visual and mechanical inspection of instrument transformers in accordance with Section 7.10. The continuation of 7.1. 17th. Perform visual and mechanical inspection of surge arresters in accordance with Section 7.19. 18th. Inspect control power transformers. 1. Inspect for physical damage, cracked insulation, broken leads, tightness of connections, defective wiring, and overall general condition. In short, is we need to inspect the overall condition of these power transformers before using. Second, verify that primary and secondary fuse or circuit breaker ratings match drawings. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina is dapat yung mga fuse or circuit breaker na ginagamit natin is enough or same dun sa standard na hinihingi sa mga drawings. Third, verify correct functioning of draw-out disconnecting contacts, grounding, contacts, and interlocks. B, which is the electrical test. 1. Perform resistance measurements through bolted electrical connections with a low resistance ohmmeter, if applicable, in accordance with 7.1.A.8.1. Second, perform insulation resistance test on each bus section, face-to-face and face-to-ground, for 1 minute in accordance with Table 100.1. Makikita pa natin yung table na 100.1 later. Third, perform a dielectric withstand voltage test on each bus section, each face-to-ground with faces not under test grounded, in accordance with manufacturer's published data. If manufacturer has no recommendations of this test, it shall be in accordance with Table 100.2. The test shall be applied for 1 minute. The fourth one, perform insulation resistance test on control wiring with respect to ground. Applied potential shall be 500 volts DC for 300 volt rated cable and 1000 volts DC for 600 volt rated cable. Test duration shall be 1 minute for units with solid-state components or control devices that cannot tolerate the applied voltage. Follow the manufacturer's recommendation. Fifth, perform electrical tests on instrument transformers in accordance with 7.10, just like dun sa iba lang. 6. Perform ground resistance tests in accordance with Section 7.13. 7. Seventh is test metering devices in accordance with Section 7.11. 8 is control power transformers. Under number 8 is 1. Perform insulation resistance tests. Perform measurements from winding to winding and each winding to ground. Test voltage shall be in accordance with Table 100.1 unless otherwise specified by the manufacturer. So, yan, mamaya makikita niyo sa Table 100.1 yung test voltages na dapat na kailangan dun sa sa insulation na yun unless palitan siya ng manufacturers. Yun yung dapat natin sundin. Second, perform a turns ratio test on all top positions. Third, perform secondary wiring integrity test. Disconnect transformer at secondary terminals and connect secondary wiring to a rated secondary voltage source. Verify correct potential at all devices. Fourth, verify correct secondary voltage by energizing the primary winding with system voltage. Measure secondary voltage with the secondary wiring disconnected. And fifth, verify correct function of control transfer relays located in the switchgear with multiple control power sources. Number 9, voltage transformers. Under number 9, perform secondary wiring with integrity test. Verify correct potential at all devices. When you say perform secondary wiring integrity test, sa mga voltage transformers natin is kailangan makita rin natin na lahat ng secondary wiring natin are correct and okay to use sa mga devices. Second, verify secondary voltages by energizing the primary winding with system voltage. So ayun, kailangan makita din natin na yung voltage na nandun sa transformer is enough to perform dun sa mga primary winding with the system voltage natin. Number 10, perform current injection test on the entire current circuit in each section of switchgear. Under number 10 is 1, perform current test by secondary injection with magnitudes such that a minimum current of 1.0 ampere flows in the secondary circuit. Verify correct magnitude of current at each device and circuit. Second, perform current tests by primary injection with magnitudes such that minimum of 1.0 ampere flows in the secondary circuit. Verify correct magnitude of current at each device in the circuit. Number 11, perform system function tests in accordance with ANSI or NETA ECS. 12. Verify operation of cubicle, switchgear, or switchboard space heaters. When you say verify operation of cubicle of switchgear or switchboard, ito yung pinaglalagyan ng mga circuit breakers natin. Kailangan natin makita na secured sila dun sa loob. Kailangan i-verify natin yung pinaglalagyan nila. 13th, perform phasing checks on double-ended or dual source switchgear to ensure correct bus phasing from each source. Kailangan makita din natin, ma-check din natin na lahat ng connections from the buses to the source are correct. 14, perform electrical test of surge arresters in accordance with section 7.19. Next is C, the test values of visual and mechanical. 1. Compare bolted connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those similar bolted connections by more than 50% from the lowest value that was written in 7.1.8.8.1. Bolt torque levels shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data in the absence of manufacturer's published data. Use table 100.12 that will be seen later. Third, the result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9. D is the test values of electrical. First, compare bolted connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar bolted connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. Yan, by more than 50% of the lowest value lang. Second is insulation. Insulation resistance values of bus insulation shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Kagaya ng sinabi kanina, kailangan nakasunod siya dun sa manufacturer's published data. In the absence of the manufacturer's published data, we can use the table 100.1. Values of insulation resistance less than this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. Dielectrics withstand voltage shall not proceed until insulation resistance levels are raised above minimum values. Yan, hindi dapat siyang itaas pa sa kung ano lang yung minimum values na binibigay. 3. If no evidence of distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric withstand test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. So, ayun, if walang distress, insulation failure na na-observe during the voltage application and the withstand test, the dielectric withstand test, ibig sabihin, or kinoconsider na natin na nakapass yun sa test. Fourth, minimum insulation resistance values of control wiring shall not be less than 2 megaohms. Fifth, results of electrical tests on instrument transformers shall be in accordance with Section 7.10. 6. Result of ground resistance test shall be in accordance with Section 7.113. And 7. Accuracy of metering devices shall be in accordance with Section 7.11. All of this will be tackled later. Number 8, control power transformers, and under number 8 is insulation resistance. Values of control power transformer shall be in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. Kagaya lang din sa mga kanina, dapat nakasunod sila dun sa manufacturer's published data, and if not, kailangan nilang gamitin yung table 100.1 na makikita later. And then, number 2, turns ratio test results shall not deviate more than 0.5% from either the adjacent coils or the calculated ratio. So, ayun, kailangan hindi siya mag-deviate ng more than 1/2 dun sa calculated ratio dun sa mga adjacent coils na dun sa 0.5% dun sa adjacent coils or sa calculated ratio dun sa turns ratio test. Third is secondary wiring shall be in accordance with design drawings and specification. So, ayun, dapat yung wirings is nakasunod dun sa drawings na sinasabi natin and dun sa specifications na hinihingi. Fourth, secondary voltage shall be in accordance with the design specification, same as number 3. And fifth, control transfer relay shall perform as designed. Okay lang kung ano lang yung nakadesign, ano yung hinihingi, yun lang yung gagawin natin. 9. Voltage transformers, under voltage transformer, just like the first one na mga sinabi ko kanina, kailangan, yung number 1 is kailangan nakasunod siya dun sa drawings and specification. And second, kagaya din, yung secondary voltage din is kailangan nakasunod din dun. 10. Current injection test shall prove current wiring is in accordance with design and specification. Na parang halos lahat naman to is kailangan nakasunod dun sa specifications and designs na nakaset na for that specific test. 11. Results of system function test shall be in accordance with ANSI or NETA ECS. 12. Heaters shall be operational. 13. Phasing checks shall prove the switchgear or switchboard phasing is correct and in accordance with the system design. 14. Results of electrical tests on surge arrestor shall be in accordance with Section 7.19. Next reporter, please.
7.2.1.1 Transformers and dry type, air-cooled, low voltage, and small. Note that this category consists of power transformers with winding rate rated 600 volts or less. Less and size equals to or less than 167 kilovolt ampere, single phase or 500 kilovolt ampere three phase. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. Dito, ito yung mga gagamitin natin na kailangan ma-inspect natin. 1. Compare equipment, nameplate, data with drawings and specifications. Kasi yung gagamitin natin at yung install natin is kailangan accordance with the design and specification. 2. Spec physical and mechanical condition para ma-assure natin na yung matetesting nating electrical equipment and systems are operational and in good condition and also within applicable standards, manufacturers' tolerances. Tapos sa 3, inspect anchorage, alignment, and grounding. Number 4, verify that resilient mounts are free and that any shipping brackets have been removed. 5, verify the unit is clean to lessen the hazardous operation, materials, and equipment during the test. Next. 6, inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. Ito yung mga methods mga gamit natin later sa pag-perform ng electrical test. 1. Use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.2.1.1 B1, which is matakal mamaya sa electrical test. Verify 2. Verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torque. Wrench method is accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12, wherein nakapaloob sa table 100.12 is yung volt torque values for electrical connection. Ito rin yung US standard fasteners, tapos heat-treated steel with a kidung or zinc-plated na makikita natin sa table for the last page. At para magamit yung mga table na yun, guide na rin dito sa given data. Number 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Wherein dito sa table 9, section 9, may mga nakapaloob na thermographic survey suggested action based on temperature rate. 7. Verify that as left tap connection are as specified. D. Electrical test. First, perform resistance measurement through voltage connection with a low resistance ohmmeter if applicable in accordance with section 7.2.1.1a.6.1, which is yung sinabi natin kanina na method is paggamit ng low resistance ohmmeter in accordance dito sa testing na to. Next. Next step. 2. Perform insulation resistance tests, winding to winding, and each winding to ground. Apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer published data, or in absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.5. Calculate polarization index. Yung magagamit natin rito, data is makikita natin later. Number 3. Perform turns ratio tests at all tap positions. 4. Verify correct secondary voltage phase to phase and phase to neutral after energization and prior to loading. C. Test values for visual and mechanical. First is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. At gagamitin natin dito is yung 7.2.1.1.a.6.1 is yung kanina, yung paggamit ng low resistance ohmmeter. Number 2 is voltage torque level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12. Dito naman is according to 7.2.1.1 is kailangan ma-verify natin yung tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torque. Wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data, o magagamit natin yung nasa table. Makikita mamaya. Number 3. Result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9 na makikita natin sa section 9. Wherein gagamit tayo dito na yung sa tawag dito low resistance ohmmeter. Hindi pala. Ang kailangan pala dito is yung sa table ng 100.12 18, which is yung sa thermographic survey na suggested na action based on the temperature rise. Number 4, top connection are left as found unless otherwise specified. D, test values electrical. First, compare bolted electrical connection resistance to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar bolted connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. Second, minimum insulation resistance values of transformer insulation shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, kailangan magamit natin yung sa table 100.5. Values of insulation resistance less than this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. The polarization index shall not be less than 1.0. Next. 3. Turn ratio. Test results shall not deviate by more than 0.5% from either the adjacent points or the calculated ratio. 4. The phase-to-phase and phase-neutral secondary voltage shall be in agreement with nameplate data para sa design and specification ng required nila. 7.2.1.2 Transformers dry type air-cooled at gagamit ng mga natin dito is yung large. Note that this category consists of power transformers with winding rated higher than 600 volts and low voltage transformer larger than 167 kilovolts ampere single phase or 500 kilovolt ampere phase. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. First is compare equipment nameplate data with drawings and specifications. Second is inspect physical and mechanical condition para malaman natin kung yung gagamitin nating equipment is in good condition at operational. Next step. Inspect anchorage, alignment, and grounding. Fourth, verify that resilient mounts are free and that any shipping brackets have been removed. 5. Verify the unit is clean to lessen the hazardous operation and materials equipment in para mag-function siya ng maganda. 6. Verify that control and alarm settings in temperature indicators are as specified. 7. Verify the cooling fans operate and that fans motors have correct overcurrent protection para na rin sa safety. 8. Inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. Next po. Ito yung mga following methods na magagamit natin according sa number 8. Use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with 67.2.1.2.B1. 2. Verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torch range method is accordance with manufacturer's published data or magagamit natin yung sa table 100.12 na makikita natin for the next page. 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. 9. Perform specific inspections and mechanical tests as recommended by the manufacturer. Verify that as left that connection are specified. 11. Verify the presence of surge arrestor. Next. B. Perform resistance measurement. B yung ano naman dito sa B is yung electrical test. 1. Perform resistance measurement through voltage connection with low resistance ohmmeter if applicable in accordance with section 7.2.1.2.a 8.1, which is yung gagamit tayo rito ng ano, low resistance ohmmeter according sa section na nabanggit. 2. Perform insulation resistance test winding to winding and each winding to ground. Apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.5. Calculate the polarization index. Then 3. Perform power factor or dissipation factor test on all windings in accordance with the test. And 4th is perform a power factor of dissipation factor to keep up test on winding greater than 2 kilovolts. Next try. And fifth is perform turns ratio test at all top position. 6. Perform an excitation current test on each phase. And the 7th is measure the resistance of each winding at each top connection. 8. Measure core insulation resistance at 500 volts DC if the core is insulated and the core ground trap is removable. And 9 is perform an applied voltage test on all high and low voltage winding to ground. CANSI C5 C57.1.12.91 which is ang nakapaloob sa IEE, which is standard test code for dry type distribution and power transformer and use the section 10.2 and 10.9. For 10, verify correction secondary voltage, phase to phase and phase to neutral after energization and prior to loading. And for 11, test surge arresters in accordance with section 7.19. C. Test values, which is yung kailangan natin dito is yung mga table na makikita natin for the last page. First, control and alarm setting on temperature indicator shall operate within manufacturer's recommendation for specified settings 7.2.1.2.8.6. Second, cooling fan shall operate. For cooling fan, naka-indicate dito yung 7.2.1.2.4 ay 2.8.7. Kailangan mo verify na that cooling fans are operating and that fan motors have correct overcurrent protection according sa 7.2.1.2.87. Sa 3, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. At dito, gagamit tayo ng low resistance ohmmeter according sa given test inspection. For number 4, volt torch level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12. 7.2.1.2.8.8.2. Dito naman sa kailangan ma-verify yung tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrating the torch wrench method in accordance with the manufacturer's published table or data table na may kita for the last page. And next is for fifth, result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9. 6. Top connection shall be left as found unless otherwise specified. And next page. D. Test values for electrical. First, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. Pagkukumparahin natin dito yung mga tinest natin with a similar voltage connection, tapos titingnan natin kung sino yung mag-lower sa 50% of lowest value. Kung sino yung merong more than 50% sa lowest value. Number 2, minimum insulation. Resistance values of transformer insulation shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.5. Values of insulation resistance less than this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigate. Polarization index shall not be less than 1.0. Next step. And for number 3, the following values are technical for insulation power factor test. First is CHL power transformers 2.0% or less. And second is CHL distribution transformers 5.0% or less. And for the third naman is CH and CL power factor or dissipation factor values will vary due to support insulators and bus work utilized and dry transformers, consult transformer manufacturers or test equipment, manufacturers data for additional information. 4. Power factor or dissipation factor tip up exceeding 1.0% shall be investigated. And 5th, turns ratio test results shall not deviate from more than 0.5% from either the adjacent curves or the calculated ratio. 6. The typical excitation current test data pattern for a 3-leg core transformer is 2 similar current readings and 1 lower current reading. 7th is temperature corrected winding resistance. Value shall compare within 1% of previously obtained result. Next one. 8. For insulation resistance, value shall not be less than 1 megaohm at 500 volts DC. Kailangan di siya bababa ng megaohm o 1 megaohm at 500 volts DC. For the number 9, AC dielectric withstand test voltage shall not exceed 75% of factory test voltage for 1 minute duration. This dielectric withstand test voltage shall not exceed 100% of the AC RMS test voltage specified in the ANSI C57.12.91 section 10.9 for 1 minute duration. If no evidence of distress or insulation, failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during dielectric withstand test. The test specimen is considered to have passed the test. Yun nga, kapag yung 1 minute na duration, if there is no evidence na nag-distress or merong insulation failure, kapag walang nangyaring ganun, is mo-consider natin na na-pass yung test ng electrical dito sa test values. Sa number 10, sa number 10, phase-to-phase and phase-to-neutral secondary voltage shall be in agreement with nameplate data according to the design and the specification ng NETA. 11. Test result for surge arrestor shall be in accordance with section 7.19. Next slide. 7.2.2 transformers liquid fill. Dito naman is yung gagamitin natin sa visual and mechanical inspection ay for number 1, kailangan natin makompare yung equipment nameplate data with drawings and the specification for the design specified by the NETA. For the number 2, inspect physical and mechanical condition. Kung ito ba ay operational pa and in good condition. Third, inspect impact recorder prior to unloading. Fourth, test dew point of tank gases. Fifth, inspect anchorage alignment and grounding. And for 6, verify the presence of PCB content labeling. Next step. Seven, verify removal of any bracing after placement. 8 is, verify natin yung bushing if ito ay malinis. Number 9, verify that alarm control and trip setting on temperature are level indicators are as specified. 10, verify operation of alarm control and trip circuits from temperature and level indicators, pressure relief device, gas accumulator, and fault pressure relay. And for 11 is verify that cooling fans and pumps operate correctly and have appropriate overcurrent protection. For number 12, inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. Next. Based sa number 12, ito yung mga methods na magagamit natin. First, use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.2.2.b.1. Number 2, verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torques. Wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. 3, perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. 13, verify correct liquid level in tanks and bushings. Number 14, verify valves are in the correct operating position. For 15, verify that positive pressure is maintained on gas blanket transformers. Number 16, perform inspection and mechanical tests as recommended by the manufacturers. Yung mga specified design and drawings. Pati na rin yung nameplate. And 17, test load tap changer in accordance with section 7.12.3. 18, verify presence of transformer surge arresters. And 19, verify the energized tap changer position is left as specified. Next one. For B, as electrical test, number 1 is perform resistance measurements through voltage connection with the low resistance ohmmeter if applicable in accordance with section 7.2.2.8.12.1. Using this section, gagamit tayo ng low resistance ohmmeter. And the second is perform insulation resistance test, winding to winding and each winding to ground. Apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.5 and calculate the polarization index. For number 3, perform turns ratio test at all tap positions. And for number 4, perform insulation power factor or dissipation factor test on all windings in accordance with test equipment manufacturer's published data. For number 5, perform power factor or dissipation factor tests on each bushing equipped with a power factor capacitance tap. In the absence of power factor capacitance tap, perform hot colors test. This test shall be in accordance with the test equipment manufacturer's published data. And for number 6, perform excitation current test in accordance with test equipment manufacturer's published data. Next step. For number 6, perform excitation current test in accordance with test equipment manufacturer's published data. For number 7, perform sweep frequency responses analysis test. And for number 8, measure the resistance of each high voltage winding in each the energized tap changer position. Measure the resistance of each low voltage winding in each de-energized tap changer position. For number 9, perform leakage reactance 3-phase equivalent and per phase test. Number 10 is if core ground trap is accessible, remove and measure for insulation resistance at 500 volts DC. And for the number 11, measure the percentage of oxygen in the gas blanket. Number 12, remove a sample of insulating liquid in accordance with ASTM D923, which is sa next mo pre. Sample shall be tested for the following. Next mo pre. For number 1, the electric breakdown voltage shall be, ito yung method na magamit natin hanggang number 3. Hanggang number 8 pala. The electric breakdown voltage ASTM D877 and or ASTM D1816, which is yung ano na yan is ito yung standard test method for voltage standard test method for the electric breakdown voltage or insulating liquids using these electrodes and standard test method for the electric breakdown voltage of insulating liquids tapos using VDE electrodes. Next is acid neutralization number. ANSI ASTMD 974, wherein itong ano na to is standard test method for acid and base number by color indicator with titration. Next is the specific gravity. ANSI or ASTMD 12998, which is ito yung standard test method for density relative density or API gravity of crude petroleum and liquid petroleum products by hydrometer method. For number 4, interfacial tension, ANSI ASTMD 971, which is ito yung standard test method for interfacial tension of oil against water by the ring method. Tapos for fifth color, ANSI ASTMD 1500s. 1500s. Ito yung standard test method for STM, color of petroleum products, STM, color scale. And for visual condition, gagamit tayo ng ASTM-D 1524, which is yung standard test method for visual examination of useful electrical insulating liquids sa isang film. Tapos yung 7 is water in insulating liquids. ASTM-D 1533, which is ito yung standard for the test method for water in insulating liquids by colorimetric pressure titration. Tapos yung number 8 is power factor or dissipation factor in accordance with ASTM-D 924, na gagamit tayo ng standard test method for dissipation factor or power factor and relative permittivity, dielectric constant of electrical insulating liquids. Next, pre. For number 13, remove a sample of insulating liquid in accordance with ASTM D923 and perform dissolved gas analysis DGA in accordance with ANSI IEEE C57.104 or ASTM D3612, which is accordance to this, ito yung distribution power and regulating. Tapos yung sa ASTM D923 naman, ito yung standard practices for sampling electrical insulating liquids. And for the ASTM D3612, ito naman yung standard test method for analysis of gases dissolved in electrical insulating oil by gas chromatography. And for number 14, test instrument transformers in accordance with section 7.10. Number 15, test surge arrestor in accordance with section 7.19 if present. For number 16, test transformer neutral grounding impedance device if present. 17, verify operation of cubicle or air terminal compartment space heaters. Letter C, test values, visual and mechanical. Dito, kailangan natin gumamit ng mga table according dun sa mga data na ma-tackle later sa last page. First, alarm control and trip circuit for temperature and level indicator as well as pressure relief device and fault pressure relay shall operate with manufacturer's recommendation for their specified setting. (7.2.2.810). Next yan. Second, cooling fans and pumps shall operate for 7.2.2A11, wherein dito kailangan natin ma-verify na yung fan is that cooling fans are that cooling fan and pumps are operating correctly and have appropriate overcurrent protection. For number 3, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. And dito, according dito sa ano na to, 7.2.2.8.12.1, gagamit tayo ng low resistance ohmmeter. Voltage level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, magagamit natin yung sa table 100.12. Dito naman sa 7.2.2.A.12.2 is ito yung may inspect natin at kailangan natin ma-verify yung tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torch. Torch range method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table na matatakil later. For number 5, result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with Section 9. For number 6, liquid levels in the transformers tanks and bushings shall be within indicated tolerance according to 7.2.2A.13, which is to verify correct liquid level in tank and bushings. For number 7, positive pressure shall be indicated or on pressure gauge for gas blanket transformer 7.2.2.8.15, which is about sa accordance to 7.2.2.8.15 na nakalagay kanina sa verify for mechanical operations. Kailangan ma-verify yung positive pressure at ma-maintain yung gas blanketed transformers. Next step. Next step. For letter D, test values electrical. First, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. Second, minimum insulation resistance values of a transformer. Insulation shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.5. Values of insulation resistance less than this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. The polarization index shall not be less than 1.0. And for number 3, turns ratio test results shall not deviate from by more than 0.5% from either the adjacent call or the calculated ratio. Next step. 4. Maximum winding insulation power factor dissipation factor values or liquid field transformer shall be in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturers, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.3. And distribution transformer power factors results shall compare to previously obtained result. For number 5, investigate bushing power factor values that vary from nameplate values by more than 150%. Investigate bushing capacitance values that vary from nameplate values by more than 5%. investigate bushing collar test values that exceed 0.1 watts. For number 6, typical excitation current test data pattern from a three-leg core transformer is to similar current readings and one lower current reading. For the number 7, swift frequency response analysis test result should compare to factory and previous test result. For number 8, try next. For number 8, consult the manufacturer if winding resistance test values vary by more than percent from the factory test values or between adjacent cases. For number 9, investigate leakage reactance per phase test result that deviate from the range of the three reading by more than 3%. The three-phase equivalent test results serve as the benchmark for the future test na magagamit natin for the comparison. Number 10, core insulation values shall be compared to the factory test values but not less than 1 mega ohm at 500 volts DC. For number 11, investigate the presence of oxygen in the nitrogen gas blanket. Next slide. Number 12, insulating liquid values shall be in accordance with table 100.4. Wherein yung table 100.4 is makikita natin later for the last page. Next slide. Okay na pa rin. Evaluate result of dissolved gas analysis in accordance with ANSI IEE standard C57-104, which is yung according dito sa ANSI, ito yung distribution power and regulating. Tapos dito sa 14, result of electrical test on instrument transformers shall be in accordance with section 7.10. And for the number 15, result of surge arrestor test shall be in accordance with section 7.19. 16, compare grounding impedance device values to manufacturer's published data. And for 17, heater shall be operational. Heater shall be operational. Next step. For 7.3.2, excuse me, cables low voltage 600 volt maximum. For A, ito yung visual and mechanical inspection na kailangang ma-verify and ma-inspect. For number 1, compare cable data with drawings and specifications. For number 2, inspect both section of cable for physical damage and correct connection in accordance with the single line diagram. 3, inspect volted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods, which is yung for number 1 is gagamit ng low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.3.2.B1. And for number 2, verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torque strength method in accordance with the manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. And for the third method is perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Next step. 4. Inspect compression connector for correct cable match and indentation. 5th, inspect for correct identification and arrangements. And for 6, inspect cable jacket, insulation and condition for the less hazardous na rin about sa operation at para hindi maka-electrocute yung mga open jacket na cable. And for B, electrical test. First, perform resistance measurement through bolted connection with low resistance ohmmeter, if applicable, in accordance with Section 7.3.2, point A, point 3.1, which is, according dito sa section na to, is yung paggamit ng low resistance ohmmeter. For number 2, perform insulation resistance test on each conductor which respect to ground and adjacent conductor. Applied potential shall be 500 volts DC for 300 volt rated capable and 100 volts DC for 600 volt rated cable. Test duration shall be 1 minute. And for number 3, perform continuity tests to ensure correct cable connection. For number 4, verify uniform resistance of parallel conductors. For letter C, test values visual and mechanical. First is compare voltage connection resistance value to value of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value, according to the section 7.3.2.83.3.1, which is yung paggamit ng low resistance ohmmeter. For the second, volt torch level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.12. And for 7.3.2, point A, point 3.2, which is yung ito yung pag-perform ng thermographic survey in accordance sa section 9. For number 3, result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9. For the sa voltage level shall be in accordance with. Dito sa number 2, ang mga gamit dito is yung kailangan ma-verify yung tightness ng accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torch range method in accordance with the manufacturer. Tapos sa D, test values electrical. First, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values and which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% the lowest value. The next. Second, insulation resistance value shall be in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. If the absence of the manufacturer, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.1, values of insulation resistance less than this table, or yung recommendation ng manufacturer shall be investigated. Tapos, for number 3, cable shall exhibit continuity. And for number 4, deviation in resistance between parallel conductors shall be investigated. Next, pre. Seven point 3. Cables medium and high voltage. For A, visual and mechanical inspection. Ito yung pag-verify and pag-inspect ng mga equipment. Compare cable data with drawing and specifications. Inspect exposed section of cables for physical damage. Para malaman na rin kung yung equipment mo is in good condition and for operational. 3. Inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods, which is magamit natin ito mga. For number 1, use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.3.2 3.3.B1. Number 2, verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torch wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.2. For number 3, perform of perform a thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. And for number 4, inspect compression applied connectors for correct cable, match and identification, inspect, and for number 5, inspect shield grounding, cable support, and terminations. Next, pre. For number 6, verify that visible cable bends meet or exceed ISAIA and manufacturer's minimum published bending radius, which is makita natin itong mga bending radius sa table later. And number 7, inspect fireproofing in common cable areas. And number 8, if cables are terminated through window, type current transformers inspect to verify that neutral and ground conductors are correctly placed and that shields are correctly terminated for operation of protective devices. For number 9, inspect for correct identification and arrangements. And number 10, inspect cable jacket and insulation condition for the lesser hazardous ng mga gamit para hindi ito maka-electric. For B, electrical test. First is perform resistance measurement through voltage connections with a low resistance ohmmeter, if applicable in accordance with section 7.3.3.8.3.1, which is yung paggamit ng low resistance ohmmeter. For number 2, perform an insulation resistance test individually on each conductor and each shield with all other conductors and shield grounded apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Kapag naman with the absence of manufacturer, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.1. And number 3, perform a shield continuity test on each power cable. Next, pre. For number 4, cable time. Perform cable time domain reflectometer TDR measurement on each conductor. For number 5, in accordance with ISAIA and IEEE, and the other power cable, the cable consensus standards, testing can be performed by means of direct current, power frequency, alternating current, very low frequency, alternating current, or dump alternating current, DAC. This source may be used to perform insulation, resistance tests, and baseline diagnostic tests such as partial discharge analysis and power factor or dissipation factor. The selection shall be made after an evaluation of the available test method and the review of installed cable system. Some of the available test methods are listed below. Next. Dun sa ano? Okay. Yung tama yan. For sa nasabi kanina, which is yung available test method is ito yon for dielectric withstand. First is direct current DC, which is dielectric withstand voltage. Very low frequency VLF, dielectric withstand voltage. And for power frequency 50 over 60 Hz, dielectric withstand voltage, dump, up, dump alternating current, DAC, voltage 5.2. Baseline diagnostic test. First is power factor dissipation factor tan delta. First is power frequency 50 over 60 Hz to, and number two is very low frequency VLF. Second is DC insulation resistance. And third is partial discharge. First is online online 50 over 60 Hz, and for offline, and number two is offline. And number one of offline is power frequency 50 over 60 Hz, and number two is very low frequency VLF. 5.2 baseline diagnostic test. First is power factor dissipation factor tan delta. Number nito is yung power frequency 50 over 60 Hz. And number two is very low frequency VLF. Second is DC insulation resistance. And three, partial discharge that has online and offline. And for online, 50 to 60 Hz. And for offline, power frequency 50 to 60 Hz and very low frequency VLF. C. Test values, visual and mechanical. First, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values, which is pwede natin gamit yung low resistance ohmmeter according to 7.3.3.A.3.1. Second, voltage level should be in accordance with manufacturer published data. And for the absence of the manufacturers, pwede natin magamit yung table 100.12, 7.3.3.A.3.2, which is according sa nasabi natin section kanina sa 7.3.832. Ito yan na. Yung pag-verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrating torch wrench method in accordance with the manufacturer's published data or yung makita natin sa table. And number 3, result of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9. 7.3.3.8.3.3, wherein dito is nakikita natin yung may perform natin yung thermographic survey according sa section 9. Number 4. The minimum bend radius to which insulated cables may be bent for permanent planing shall be in accordance with table 100.22, which is makita natin tong table na to later kung ilan yung mga bending radius na pwedeng gamitin in every cables. Next, pre. D. Test values, electrical. First, compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. And number 2, insulation resistance value shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.2. Values of insulation resistance that this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. Number 3, shielded shall exhibit continuity. Investigate resistance values in excess of 10 ohms per 1,000 feet of cable. Number 4, TDR, graphical measurements should blur the identity, the cable length, and characteristics should be consistent with other phases. 5.1. If no evidence of distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time voltage application during the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. Kagaya ng sinabi nito, if walang nangyaring distress or walang nangyaring insulation failure, consider natin na yung test is pasado sa specification nila. And 5.2, based on the test methodology chosen, refers to applicable standard or manufacturer's literature for acceptable values. 7. Hindi sa for next reporter pa yun.
So I'm the one who report the 7.5.1.1, which is switches, air, and low voltage. A visual and mechanical inspections. First is compare equipment nameplate data with drawings and specifications. Second is inspect physical and mechanical condition. Dito parang i-inspect mo muna yung condition ng i-inspect mo muna yung physical and mechanical condition ng isang project. Third one is inspect anchorage, alignment, grounding, and required clearances. The fourth is verify the unit is clean. The fifth is verify correct blade alignment, blade penetration, travel stops, and mechanical operations. Sixth is verify that vessel sizes and types are in accordance with drawings, short circuit studies, and coordination studies. The seventh is verify that each vessel has adequate mechanical support and contact integrity. Next slide. And the eighth is inspect bloated electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. The first is use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.5.1.1.B.1. The second is verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. The third is the third is perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Point 9 is verify operation and sequencing of interlocking system. That is verify correct pace by installation. Next is verify correct operation of all indicating and control devices. And 12 is verify appropriate lubrication on moving current carrying parts and on moving and sliding surfaces. Dinidiscuss dito na para maging safe yung isang bagay at maging maayos yung magiging flow ng mga bawat gagawin. Next slide. Let's talk about the electrical test. First is perform resistance measurements through bloated connection with a low resistance ohmmeter, if applicable, in accordance with section 7.5.1.1.8.1. The second is measure contact resistance across each switch blade and piece holder. Perform insulation resistance test for 1 minute on each pole, face to face and face to ground with switch close and across each open pole. and apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use it in table 100.100.1. The fourth one is measure fuse resistance. The fifth one is verified cubical space heater operations. And the sixth is perform ground fault test in accordance with section 7.14 if applicable. And the last is perform test on other protective devices in accordance with section 7.9 if applicable also. Next slide, please. Test values, visual and mechanical. First is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection and investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the low values, which is in the section of 7.5.1.1.8.8.1. Both torque levels shall be in accordance with manufacturer's data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, it all table 100.1 5.1.8 point. In the test of electrical, the compare connection, which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. The second is micro ohm or DC millivolt drop values shall not exceed the high levels of the normal range as indicated in the manufacturer's published data, which is if manufacturer's published data is not available, investigate values that deviate from adjacent poles of similar which has by more than 50% of the lowest value. Next slide, please. The third is insulation resistance value should be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, it use table 100.1, which is values of insulation resistance less than this table of manufacturer's recommendation shall be investigated. The fourth is investigated fuse resistance values that deviate from other by more than 15%. The fifth is heaters shall be operationals, and sixth is ground fault test shall be in accordance with section 7.14. The seventh is results of protective devices test shall be in accordance with section 7.9. Next slide. 7.5.1.2 switch air, medium voltage, and metal enclosed naman. A is the visual and mechanical inspection. The first is compare equipment, nameplate, data with drawings, and specification. Second is inspect physical and mechanical condition. The third is inspect, encourage alignment, grounding, and required clearances. Verify the unit is clean. The fifth is verify correct blade alignment, blade penetration, travel stops, arc interrupter operations, and mechanical operations. The sixth is verify that fuse sizes and times are in accordance with drawing, short circuit study, and coordination study. Verify that expulsion limiting devices are in a place on all holders having exclusion type elements, which is it is same as the 7.1.1.1. Next slide, please. Eight is verify that each piece holder has adequate mechanical support and contact integrity. The ninth is inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. The first is use of a low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.5.1.2.b.1. The second is verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connection by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or in table of 100.12. And the third is perform demographic survey in accordance with section 9. The 10th is verify operation and sequencing of interlocking system. 11th is verify correct and base bar installation. Verify correct operation of all indicating and control devices. And verify appropriate lubrication of moving current carrying parts and on moving and sliding surface. And as I'm said late, as same din lang po dun sa 7.5.1.1 na bine-verify lang na para dun sa mga safeties and para dun sa mga safeties na mga gagawin natin bagay. Next slide, please. In electrical test of 7.5.1.2, the first is perform resistance measurements through voltage connection with a low resistance ohmmeter if applicable, in accordance with section 7.5.1.2.A.9.1. The second is measure contact resistance across switch blade and fuse holder. And the third is perform insulation resistance test for 1 minute on each pole, face to face and face to ground, and switch close and across each open pole. Apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's published data in accordance of manufacturer's data using the table of 100.1. The fourth is perform dielectric withstand voltage test on each pole with switch close, test each pole to ground with all other poles grounded. Test voltage shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.2. The fifth is measure fuse resistance. And the sixth is verify cubicle space heater operations. Next slide. Test values, visual and mechanical. The first is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. It investigates values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value, which is 7 in section 7.5.1.2.8.9.1. The second is both torque levels shall be in accordance with manufacturer's data. Manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use the table 100.12, which is section 7.5.1.2.8 or 0.9.2. The results of the thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9, 7.5.1.2.8.9.9.3. Next slide, please. The test values of section 7.5.1.2 in electrical. The first is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. The microohm or DC millivolt drop values shall not exceed the high levels of the normal range of indicated in the manufacturer's published data. In absence of manufacturer's published data, investigate values that deviate from adjustment poles or similar switches by more than 50% of the lowest value. The third is insulation resistance. Value shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.1. Values of insulation resistance less than this table of manufacturer's recommendations should be investigated. Dielectric withstand voltage test shall not proceed until insulation resistance levels are raised above the minimum values. Yung table is makikita po natin to sa last page ng report na to. Next slide, please. The fourth is, if no evidence of distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric withstand test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. The fifth is investigate fuse resistance values that deviate from each other by more than 15%, and heater shall be operational. Let's talk about 7.5.1.3, which is the switch, air, medium, and high voltage open. Visual and mechanical inspection. The first of visual and mechanical inspection is compare equipment nameplate data with drawings and specifications. Inspect physical and mechanical condition. Inspect and encourage alignment, grounding, and required clearances. Verify the unit is clean. The fifth is perform mechanical operator test in accordance with manufacturer's published data if applicable. The sixth is verify a correct operation and adjustment of motor operator, limit, switches, and mechanical interlocks if applicable. Seventh is verify correct blade alignment, blade penetration, travel stops, arc interrupter operation, and mechanical operation. Next slide, please. Eight is verify operation and sequencing of interlocking system. The nine is verify that each fuse has adequate mechanical support and contact integrity if applicable. Number 10 is verify that fuse sizes and types are in accordance with drawings, short circuit study, and coordination study. 11 is inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. And the following methods are use of low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.5.1.3.d.1. Second is verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connection by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. Third is perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Third is verify correct operation of all indicating and control devices if applicable. 13th is verified operate lubrication on moving current carrying parts and on moving and sliding surface. 14 is record as of found and as left operation counter readings. Next slide please. The electrical test of 7.5.1.23. Perform resistance measurements through bolted connection with a low resistance ohmmeter if it is applicable in accordance with in accordance with section 7.1 .1.3 .11.1. The second is perform contact resistance test across each switch blade and fuse holder. The third is perform perform insulation resistance test for 1 minute, one each for face to face and base to ground with switch closed and across each open pole, and apply voltage in accordance with manufacturer's data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use 100.1.4. Next slide, please. The fourth one is perform insulation resistance test on all control wiring with respect of ground. Applied potential shall be 500 volts DC for 300 volt rated cable and 1000 volts DC for 600 volt rated cable. Test duration shall be 1 minute. For units with solid state components or control devices that can tolerate the the applied voltage, follow the manufacturer's recommendation. The fifth is perform a dielectric instant voltage test on each pole with switch closed. Test each pole to ground with all other poles grounded. Test voltage shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's data, using the table of 100.19. The sixth is measure fuse resistance. Next slide, please. The test values of visual and mechanical of 7.1.3.1. The first is comparable to connection resistance value to values of similar in connection. Investigate values which deviate from those of similar bloated connection by more than 50% of the lowest value, which is the section 7.5.1.3.1.11.1. The second is both torque levels shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use the table of 100.12 with section 7.5.1.3.8.11 and point 2. The third is results of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9. And the fourth is operate counter should advance 1 digit per close open cycle. Next slide, please. Test values of electrical in is first is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which is the weight from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest values. Second is micro-ohm or DC millivolt drop values shall not exceed the high levels of the normal range as indicated in the manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, investigate values that deviate from adjacent poles or similar switches by more than 50% of the lowest value. Third is insulation resistance value shall be in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. In the absence of the manufacturer's published data, use table 100.1. Values of insulation resistance less than this table are manufacturer's recommendations should be investigated. Dielectric withstand voltage test should not proceed until installation resistance levels are raised above minimum values. Next slide, please. The fourth is minimum insulation resistance values of control wiring. Excuse me, please. Fourth is minimum insulation resistance values of control. Wiring shall not be less than 2 megaohms. If no evidence of distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the electric withstand test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. 6 is investigate use resistance values that deviate from each other by more than 15%. Next slide, please. The 7.6.1.2, which is the circuit breakers and low voltage power. Let's talk about the visual and mechanical inspection of circuit breaker voltage, low voltage power. First is compare equipment nameplate data with drawing and in specifications. Second is inspect physical and mechanical condition. Third is third is inspect, encourage alignment and grounding. Fourth is verify that all maintenance devices are available for servicing and operating the breaker. The fifth is verify the unit is built. The sixth is verify the arc is intact. Seventh is inspect moving and stationary contacts for condition and alignments. The eighth is verify that a primary and secondary contact weight and other dimensions vital to satisfactory operation of the breaker are correct. And perform all mechanical operator and contact alignment tests on both end breakers and its operating mechanism in accordance with manufacturer's published data. The test is inspect bolted electrical connection for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. Next slide, please. The following methods are in accordance with the section 7.6.1.2.3.1, which is use of a low resistance ohmmeter. And the second is verify tightness of accessible voltage electrical connection by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. Third is perform a thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. And 11th is verify cell, feed, and element alignment. 12th is verify locking mechanism operation. The 13th is appropriate lubrication on moving current carrying parts and on moving and sliding surfaces. 14th is adjustment of wider protective devices settings in accordance with coordination study provided by the end of user. Fifteen is a 15 is record as found and as of let operation counter readings. Next slide, please. The electrical test. First is perform resistance measurements through voltage connection with a low resistance ohmmeter if applicable. It is accordance with the section 7.6.1.2.8.10.1. Perform insulation resistance test for 1 minute on each pole face to face and face to ground with the circuit breakers closed and across each open pole. Test voltage shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.1. The third is perform a contact or fault resistance test. Fourth is performs insulation resistance test on uncontrolled wiring with respect to ground, and its applied potential shall be 400 volts DC to 500 volt rated cable and 1000 volts DC for 600 volt rated cable. Thus duration shall be 1 minute for units with solid days. Components follow manufacturer's recommendations. The fifth is determine long time pickup and delay by primary current injection. The sixth is determine short time pickup and delay by primary current injection. The seventh is Seventh is determining ground fault pickup and delayed by primary current injection. The eighth is determining instantaneous pickup value by primary current injection. Next slide, please. 9 is test functions of the trip unit by means of secondary injections. The 10 is for minimum pickup voltage test on shunt trip and closed coils in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Verify correct operation of any auxiliary features such as trip and pick-up indicators, zone, interlocking, electrical close, and trip operation. Trip pre anti-pump function and the trip unit battery condition. Reset all trip logs and indicators. Tab is verify operation of charging mechanism. Let's talk about the test values of visual and mechanical. The first is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which is deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value, which is in the section of 76.1.2.8.10.2. Second is volt torque level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, using the table of 100.12. The third is the result of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with the section 9. Next slide, please. The fourth is settings shall comply with coordination study recommendation. And the fifth is operation counter shall advance 1 digit for closed open cycle. The test values of electrical is first is compare voltage connection. The first is compare voltage connection resistance values to values of similar connection. Investigate values which is deviate from those of similar voltage connection by more than 50% of the lowest value. The second is insulation resistance values of circuit breakers shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of the manufacturer's published data, using the table of 100.1, values of insulation resistance less than this table or manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. The third one is breaker ohm or DC millivolt drop value shall not exceed the high levels of the normal range as indicated in the manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, investigate values that deviate from adjustment poles or similar breakers by more than 50% of the lowest value. Next slide, please. The fourth is insulation resistance value of control wiring shall not be less than 2 megaohms. The fifth is long time pickup value shall be as specified and the trip characteristic shall not exceed manufacturer's published time current characteristic tolerance band, including adjustment factors. If manufacturer's curves are not available, trip times shall not exceed the valuations in table 100.7. Short time pickup value shall be as specified and the trip characteristic shall not exceed manufacturer published time current tolerance band. 7 is ground fault pickup value shall be as specified and the trip characteristic shall not exceed manufacturer's published time current tolerance band. Instantaneous pickup values shall be as specified and near manufacturer's published tolerance. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, refer to table 100.8. And 9 is pick-up values and trip characteristics should be as specified and within manufacturer's published tolerances. Next slide, please. The 10th is minimum pick-up voltage of the shunt trip and closed coil shall conform of the manufacturer published data. In the absence of the manufacturer's published data, refer to table using the table of 100.20. 11 is auxiliary features shall operate in accordance with manufacturer's published data. And the last one is the charging mechanism shall operate in accordance with manufacturer's published data.
My report is 7.6.2 circuit breakers, oil, medium, and high voltage. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. Number 1. Compare equipment and nameplate data with drawings and specifications. Dito natin titignan kung tama ba yung gagamitin nating equipment na nakalagay dun sa blueprint or nakalagay dun sa manual or guide na binigay ng kumpanya na nagbigay ng equipment. 2. Inspect physical and mechanical condition. Titignan natin kung maayos pa ba, walang sira, walang gasgas, walang kahit anumang damage dun sa binigay na gamit, tools, or equipment para sa nasabing gagawin. 3. Inspect anchorage, alignment, grounding, and regard clearances. Sinasabi dito is titignan ba natin kung akma or walang na-disalign, walang gap or walang spaces na pwedeng magkaroon ng minor issues ganun, or pwedeng mag-lead ito sa mas malaki pang problema sa future. Number 4, verify that all maintenance devices such as special tools and gauges specified by the manufacturer are available for servicing and operating the breaker. Kailangan inspeksyonin mo na lahat ng gagamiting tools for maintenance, kasi if the maintenance tools are not good and in our bad condition, maaari niya ring maapektuhan yung paggagamitan nito ng maintenance niya. Next, number 5, verify correct oil level in all tanks and bushings. Sinasabi nitong verify oil level is hindi siya nag-i-spill or hindi naman siya mababa na kung baring mag-breakdown yung gumagamit ng machinery or equipment kung kulang sa oil, which baka mag-dry up and masira yung components sa loob nito. And yung bushings naman ay yung mga to avoid leakages, para hindi lumabas yung mga oil or any liquid internal stuff. 6 is verify the breather vents are clear. Parang exhaust ganun, dapat hindi naka-block or hindi makakalabas yung mga kailangan gases na kailangan ilabas ng machinery. Baka maaring mag-lead ito sa overheating ganun. 7, verify the unit is clean. Dapat malinis yung material or yung unit bago gamitin para mas safe and secure para sa rin sa gagamit ng mga employees or kumpanya ganun. 8, inspect hydraulic system and air compressor in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. Dito naman inspect natin yung hydraulic system, which is yung siguro yung pwedeng mag-balance or pwede siya yung magtulak, maghila ng mga bagay na kailangang iangat ganon or i-pull, which is yung sa piston ganon, mga piston ng malalaking equipment. Kasi pag once na mag-lock yung mga pistons gamit yung hydraulic system is mag-i-stuck yun and hindi na magagamit yung equipment that will lead to the whole operation stopping. 9. Test alarms and pressure limit switches for pneumatic and hydraulic operators such as operators as recommended by the manufacturer. 10. Perform mechanical operation tests on the operating mechanisms in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. Next slide, please. 11. While performing internal inspection, 11, 1. Remove oil, lower tanks, or remove manhole covers unnecessary. Inspect bottom of the tank for broken parts and debris. Ito yung sinasabi na internal inspection, which is ito-drain yung oil, then titignan if may debris na galing sa iba't ibang machineries na na-impact dun sa loob ng tank or may leak. Second, inspect leaf rod and toggle assemblies, contact, interrupters, bumpers, dashpots, bushing, current transformers, tank liners, and gaskets. Ito yung titignan kung may leakage ba na naganap or magaganap pa lang, para maiwasan na rin yung para maiwasan na ito maging extreme, which is maagapan para hindi na nga lumala lalo or mag-cause pa ng ibang equipment para masira. 3. Verify that contact sequence is in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, refer to ANSI or EE C37.04. This standard applies to AC high voltage circuit breakers with rated nominal voltage above 1000 volts. It establishes the rating structure, preferred ratings, construction, and functional component requirements. This standard encompasses the following: triple circuit breakers used in three-phase systems and single pole circuit breakers used in single-phase systems. Number 4, fill tanks with filtered oil. Ito na yung ibabalik na yung oil, or pwedeng gumamit ng bagong oil na kailangan pang i-filter para yung mga maliliit na debris hindi makasira sa loob nung maging equipment or yung makina. Next, inspect bolted electrical connections for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. Number 1, use of low resistant ohmmeter in accordance to section 7.6.2b1. 2. Verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connections by the calibrated torque wrench in accordance with the manufacturer's published data or tabled 100.12, which makita nyo po yung mga data or table at the end of the presentation for guidelines po. 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Next, please. 13. Verify cell fit and element alignments if applicable. 14. Verify racking mechanism operation if applicable. 15 is perform contact timing test. Yung sa 15 is yung sa contact timing is if lahat ba sila aligned. Kumbaga if walang mangyayaring delay dun sa contact timing nila, kailangan palagi silang in motion. 16. Perform mechanism motion analysis, which is I said in 15, kailangan kung counterclockwise, if clockwise lang yung motion nila. 17. Perform trip or closed coil current signature analysis. 18. Verify appropriate lubrication of moving current carrying parts or end on moving and sliding surfaces. Example nito is yung conveyor belts, yung mga gears doon. Na if yung isang conveyor belt ay hindi gumagana, mag-lead ito ng whole operation delay or stop. Since hindi nila magagawa yung part na nasa part nila. 16. Record as found and as left operation counter readings. Ito na yung mga na-inspect mo and i-record mo ito, then you will see or you will differentiate with the table and para makita mo rin yung readings nito. B. Electrical test. 1. Perform resistance measurements through bolted connections with a low resistance ohmmeter. Applicable in accordance with section 7.6.2a.12.1. 2. Perform insulation resistances for 1 minute on each pole, face to face and face to ground with circuit breaker closed. And across each open pole, test voltage shall be in accordance with the manufacturer's data, published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.1, which makita nyo sa dulo ng presentation. Next, please. 3. Perform a static contact or pole resistance test. 4. Perform a dynamic contact or pole resistance test. 5. Which is perform an insulation resistance test on all control wiring with respect to ground. Applied potential shall be 500 volts DC for 300 volt rated cable and 1000 volt DC for 600 volt rated cable. Test duration shall be 1 minute for units with solid state components. Follow manufacturer's recommendation. 6. Remove a sample of insulating liquid in accordance with ASTM D923. Sample shall be tested in accordance with reference standard. Yung ASTM D923 is standard test method for the electric breakdown voltage of insulating liquid using electrodes. Ang scope naman nito is this test method describes two procedures A and B for determining the electrical breakdown of voltage of insulating liquid specimens. The breakdown test uses a voltage in the power frequency of 45 to 60 Hz. Ito yung mga kabilang sa ASTM-D23 is number 1. The electric breakdown voltage is ASTM D877. Ang scope niyan is this test method is used to determine electrical discharge voltage of in-use electrical liquids is no longer applicable to new insulating liquids. Upon receipt, in which test methods D1816 shall be used. Note 1. It is understood that the long-term history for this test method exists, but this test method is no longer considered applicable as numerous deficits exist that affect its usefulness. It is recommended to move all new and in-service electrical discharge voltage testing of electrical insulating liquids to test method D1816. Next, color. ANSI or ASTMD 1500. ANSI or ASTMD 1500 is a color scale applicable to wide range of petroleum products such as lubricant oils, heating oils, diesel fuel oils, and petroleum waxes. The ASTMD 1500 color scale is a principal quality measurement used for the purchase and sale of partially refined oils. 3. Power factor ASTMD 924. Which the standard test for dissipation factor or power factor and relative permittivity dielectric constant of electrical insulating liquids. Next is interfacial tension ASTMD 971, which is the standard test method for interfacial tension of insulating liquids against water by the ring method. Next is visual condition ASTM D1524, which is a standard test method for visual examination of used electrical insulating liquids in the field. Next is neutralization number or acidity ASTM D974, which is a test method for acid and base number by color indicator titration. And lastly, number 7, which is water content ASTM D1533, is a test method for water insulating liquids by colorimetrical Fisher titration. Next, please. 7. Perform minimum peak up voltage test on a trip and closed coils in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 8. Correct operation by any auxiliary features such as electric close and trip operation, trip free, or anti-pump function. Number 9. Trip circuit breaker by operation of each protective device. Reset all trip plugs and indicators. 10. Perform a power factor or dissipation factor test on each pole with breaker open, on each face with breaker closed. Determine tank loss index. 11. Perform power factor or dissipation factor test on each bushing equipped with a power factor capacitance stop. In the absence of power factor or capacitance stop, perform hot collar test. This test shall be in accordance with the test equipment manufacturer's published data na makikita nyo ulit sa table natin. 12. Perform a dielectric withstand voltage test in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 13. Verify operation of heaters. 14. Test instrument transformers in accordance to section 7.10. C. Test values, visual and mechanical. Settings for alarm pressure and limit switches shall be in accordance with the owner's specification. In the absence of owner's specifications, use manufacturer's published data 7.6.2.A.9. 2. Compare bolted connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate those of similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value, which nakita natin sa 7.6.2, point A, number 12.1. Bolt torque level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's public data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12, which makita nyo sa end of presentation na required din gamitin ng 7.6.2.A, number 12, section 2. And number 4, results of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9 and 7.6.2.A, number 12, section 3. Number 5, contact timing values shall be in accordance with manufacturer's data, which is 7.6.2.A, number 15. Next, please. 6. Travel and velocity shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data, which was said in 7.6.2.A, number 16. Trip or closed coil current value shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data, said in 7.6.2.A.17, and also in the table in the last part na makikita nyo po later. Operation counter shall advance on 1 digit per close open cycle, which was indicated in 7.6.2.A, number 19. D. Test values for electrical. Compared bolted connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate values which deviate from those similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value. Dito is kukunin lahat dong mga values na na-deviate mo from each bolt, then you will compute it and see if it is 50% of the lowest value in the table that we will show later at the end of the presentation. 2. Insulation resistance values of circuit breakers shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.1. Values of the insulation resistance less than this table of manufacturer's recommendation should be investigated. Which means na if mababa yung value dun sa nakalagay sa standard, dun sa manufacturer's data or sa manufacturer's recommendation, ay dapat itong investigahan or inspect, or kasi baka mag-lead ito for stopping of operation or makasira pa ng ibang equipment na gagamitin. Next. 3. Micro-ohm or DC millivolt drop value shall not be exceeded the high levels of the normal range as indicated in the manufacturer's published data. If the manufacturer's published data is not available, investigate the values that deviate from adjacent poles or similar breakers by more than 50% of the lowest value. 4. Dynamic contact resistance value shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 5. Insulation resistance values of control wiring shall not be less than 2 megaohms. 6. Insulating liquid test shall be in accordance with table 100.4. 7. Minimum pickup voltage of the trip and close coil shall conform to the manufacturer's published data, but in the absence of manufacturer's published data, refer to table 120. 8. Auxiliary features shall operate in accordance with the manufacturer's published data. 9. Protective device shall operate the breaker per system design. Next, please. Power factor or dissipation factor values and tank loss index shall be compared to manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, the comparison shall be made to test from similar breakers or data from test equipment manufacturers. Ang sinasabi dito is power factor and dissipation factor and tank loss is kailangan i-test to similar breakers na kasama do sa equipment or from the data from the past test currently that the manufacturers use para masabing nasa standard pa din yung ginagamit na equipment or tools. 11. Power factor or dissipation factor and capacitance value shall be within 10% of the nameplate rating for bushings. Hot collar tests are evaluated on milliampere or milliwatt loss basis, and the results should be compared to the values of similar bushings. 12. If no evidence or distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric withstand test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. 13. Heaters shall be operational. 14. Results of electrical tests on instrument transformers shall be in accordance with section 7.10. Next, please. Seven point 15.1. Rotating machinery, AC induction motors, and generators. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. 1. Compare equipment nameplate with drawings and specifications. Ito yung ini-inspect mo muna kung tama lahat ng na-deliver ng equipment sa iyo or tools upang magamit. Kung tama ba ito, nakasang-ayon sa blueprint, kumbaga, doon sa blueprint, naka-indicate doon kung tama ba. Second, inspect physical and mechanical condition. Titignan kung may sira or may defect or may kung misalignment ba na mangyayari. 3. Inspect anchorage, alignment, and grounding. Dito makikita kung may tama or kung may sira ba or defect, which is sa number 2 din, nakalagay inspect physical and mechanical condition. 3. Inspect air baffles, filter media, cooling fans, slip rings, brushes, and brush rigging. Yung mga sinabi dito is for external and internal parts na sa loob ng equipment, which if not inspected properly, which can lead to the equipment breaking down, and other equipments also may break down because they are connected with one another. 5. Inspect bolted Inspect bolted electrical connections for hair resistant using one or more of the following methods. Number 1. Use of low voltage resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 715.1b 15.1b1. Number 2. Verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connections by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer published data or table 100.12. Means na dapat lahat ng bolts ay masikip at hindi loose para ma-secure yung equipment or tool or walang mangyaring leakage. 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Thermographic survey which means na gagamit ng thermal equipment para makita kung kaya nyo ba mag-resist or kaya nyo mag-induce ng electricity or heat. Next. 6. Perform special tests such as air gap spacing and machine alignment. Number 6, yung sa special test such as air gap spacing which means na if may gap means na hindi siya fitted or hindi siya sakto dun sa papasukan niya which baka mag-lead ito ng kalawang, rust or ganon. And sa machine alignment naman is baka hindi siya properly fitted. Ibig sabihin maaring tawag ba dito? Hindi siya mag-straight, kumbaga yung anong tawag doon? Hindi siya naka-align ng maayos, which can lead to dysfunction ng equipment or ng machinery. 7. Manually rotate the rotor and check for problems with the bearings or shaft. Ito naman is yung kung hindi ba siya iikot or hindi ba magro-rotate yung sa axis niya or sa position niya which is pwedeng clockwise motion or counterclockwise motion. 9. Verify the application of appropriate lubrication and lubrication systems. Ito naman siguro yung sa mga oils, gas, petroleum, if baka may blockage sa mga wires, sa mga connections, sa mga pipes, and kung may sira ba yung system which is pwedeng mag-cause ng overflow or kulang sa supply, ganon. 10. Verify the resistance temperature detector RTD circuits conform to drawings. B. Electrical test of AC inductions. 1. Perform resistance measurements through bolted connections with the low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.15.1 point A point number 5.1. 2. Perform insulation resistance test in accordance with ANSI or IEE standard number 43. Which the standard is describes recommended procedure for measuring insulation resistance of armature and field windings rotating machines rated from 1 horsepower 750 watts or greater. It applies to the synchronous machines, induction machines, DC machines, and synchronous condensers. 1. Machines greater than 200 horsepower or 150 kilowatts. Test duration shall be 10 minutes. Calculate the polarization index. Number 2. Machines 200 horsepower or 150 kilowatts and less. Test duration shall be 1 minute. Calculate the dielectric absorption ratio for 60 over 30 second periods. Next. Next, please. Number 3. Machines larger than 200 horsepower, 150 or 150 kilowatts. Test duration shall be 10 minutes. Calculate the polarization index. Number 4. Machines over 200 horsepower, 150 kilowatts and less. Test duration shall be 1 minute. Calculate the dielectric absorption ratio for 60/30 second periods. 4. Perform face-to-face stator resistance tests on machines 2300 volts and greater. 5. Perform insulation power factor dissipation factor tests. 6. Perform power factor dissipation factor tip-up test. 7. Perform surge comparison tests. 8. Perform insulation resistance tests on insulated bearings in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 9. Test surge protection devices in accordance with Section 7.19 and Section 7.20. 10. Test motor starter in accordance with Section 7.16. 11. Perform resistance tests on resistance temperature detector RTD in circuits. 12. Verify operation of machine space heater if applicable. 13. Perform vibration test while machine is running under load. C. Test values visual and mechanical. 1. Inspection 7.15.A4. Air baffle shall be cleaned and installed in accordance with manufacturer's published data, which is the table again in the last page of our PPT. 2. Filter media shall be cleaned and installed in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 3. Cooling fan shall operate to avoid overheating, of course. 4. Slip ring alignment shall be within manufacturer's data tolerances, which means na kailangan may pag sinabi bang tolerance is kailangan kasya and hindi siya mag-exceed doon sa nakalagay doon sa manufacturer's published data about sa tolerance ng part na yun. Same as brush alignment shall be within manufacturer's published data tolerances. 6. Brush wrinkling shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Next. 2. Compare bolted connection resistance values to values of similar collections. Investigate values which deviate from those old similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value. In accordance to 7.15.1.A.5 number 1. 3. Bolt torque level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12 in accordance to 7.15.1.A.5 number 2. Results of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9 in accordance with 7.15.1.A.5 number 3. And number 5, air gap spacing and machine alignment shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data in accordance with 7.15.1.A.6. D. Test values electrical tests. Number 1. Compare bolted connection resistance values of similar connections. Investigate any values that deviate from similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value. Means na if any part goes lower than 50% by the standard of the publisher's data, shall be removed and replaced with a new one. 2. Recommend minimum insulation resistance or IR1 min or test results megaohm shall be in accordance with table 100.11. The polarization index shall not be less than 2.0. The dielectric absorption ratio shall not be less than 1.4. 3. If no evidence of distress or insulation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric resistance test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. 5. Investigate face-to-face stator resistance values that deviate by more than 5%. 5. Power factor or dissipation factor values shall be compared to manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, these values will be compared to previous values of similar machines. It means na if wala yung document, you can compare it to previous similar machines that you use in production or in any else or in the company. Next. Six. Tip-off value shall indicate no significant increase in power factor. 7. If no evidence of distress, insulation failure, or lack of waveform nesting is observed by the of the total time of voltage application during the surge comparison test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. 8. Bearing insulation resistance measurement shall be within manufacturer's published tolerances. In the absence of manufacturer's published tolerances, the comparison shall be made to similar machines. 9. Test results of surge protection devices shall be in accordance with Section 7.19 and Section 7.20. The test results of motor starter equipment shall be in accordance with said Section 7.16. 11. RTD circuit shall conform to design intent and machine protection device manufacturer's published data. 12. Heaters shall be operational. 13. Vibration amplitudes of uncoupled and unloaded machines shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, vibration amplitude shall not exceed values shown in table 100.10. If values exceed those in table 100.10, perform complete vibration analysis, which means na hindi na lang yung part na yun yung test mo, which means na yung buong machinery na yung test mo. Next. Seven. 15.2 Rotating machinery, synchronous motors, and generators. A. Visual and mechanical inspection. 1. Compare equipment and nameplate data with drawings and specifications, which means na compare mo lahat ng equipments doon na nakalagay sa data and drawings or in blueprints and kung tama ba yung specifications nito. Second, inspect physical and mechanical condition, which means na titignan mo if may kulang ba or may missing na part or may na-bend na part dun sa gamit or machinery. 3. Inspect anchorage, alignment, and grounding. Anchorage alignment means na diretso yung pagkaka-align sa kanya, hindi siya baligo-baligo. And sa grounding, which is for electrical use. Number 4. Inspect air baffles, filter media, cooling fans, slip rings, brushes, and brush rigging. 5. Inspect bolted electrical connections for high resistance using one or more of the following methods. 1. Use of low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.15.2.b.1. 2. Verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connections by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer published data or table 100.12, which means na if any bolts is loosened, you can tighten it up with the calibrated torque wrench. 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance with section 9. Titignan ba or kung kaya ba ng heat capacitance or hindi nag-overheat yung part or yung machinery. 6. Perform special tests such as air gap spacing and mechanical alignment. Air gap spacing, which means na hindi siya sakto, may gap siya doon which can lead to misalignment, which is said machine alignment. Pwedeng hindi pumasok doon yung part, pwedeng sa ibang part siya pumasok and makasira pa ng ibang components internally doon sa machinery. 7. Manually rotate the rotor and check for problems with the bearings or shaft. Ito yung sinasabi kung umikot ba siya, nagpa-function ba siya, naka-align ba siya, kung yung rod ba is umakyat, bumaba, clockwise or counterclockwise motion. 9. Verify the application of appropriate lubrication and lubrication systems. Appropriate lubrication, which means na tama yung may lagay mong langis, diesel, petroleum, ganon doon at hindi kulang. Sa lubrication systems naman is ayun yung nagbibigay doon sa mga machinery or equipment ng lubrication, which means na if sira yung lubrication systems, pwede siyang magbigay ng kulang or sobra, which cause spillage and makasira na equipment or machinery. 10. Verify the resistance temperature detector RTD circuits conform to the drawings. Ayun yung nakalagay sa mga plano sa manufacturers, published data or sa nasa blueprint, and dun yung mga measurements. Excuse me. B. Electrical test. 1. Perform resistance measurement through voltage connections with the load resistance ohmmeter if applicable in accordance with section 7.15.2.a.5 number 1. 2. Perform insulation resistance test in accordance with ANSI or IE Electrical Standard 43, which nagsasabi nga dito is this procedure of measurement of insulation resistance of armature and field windings rotating machines rated from 1 horsepower, 750 watts or greater. 1. Machines larger than 200 horsepower or 150 kilowatts, test duration shall be for 10 minutes. Calculate the operations index, which sinabi nga kanina dapat hindi bumaba ng 2.0. 2. Machines 200 horsepower or 150 kilowatts and less, test duration shall be for 1 minute and calculate the dielectric absorption ratio na dapat hindi bumaba or less than 1.4. 3. All machines rated at 2,300 volts and greater perform the electric withstand voltage test in accordance to ANSI Standard 95 for this electric withstand voltage test, or NEMA MG1 for AC the electric withstand voltage test, which yung sa ANSI 95 is yung purpose ng standard nito is provide uniform procedures for performing high direct voltage acceptance tests and routine maintenance tests on the main ground insulation of windings of AC electrical machines. Number 4. Perform face-to-face stator resistance tests on machines 2,300 volts and greater. 5. Perform insulation of power factor or dissipation factor test. 6. Perform power factor or dissipation factor tip-up test. 7. Perform surge comparison test. 8. Perform insulation resistance test on insulated bearings in accordance with manufacturer's published data if applicable. 9. Test surge protection devices in accordance with section 7.19 and section 7.20. Next, please. Test motor starter in accordance with section 7.16. 11. Perform resistance test on resistance temperature detector RTD circuits. 12. Verify operation of machine space heater if applicable. 13. Perform vibration test while machine is running under load. 14. Perform insulation resistance test on the main rotating field winding, the exciter field winding, and the exciter armature winding in accordance with ANSI standard 43, which means na measuring insulation resistance of armature and field windings rotating machines rated from 1 horsepower to 750 watts or greater greater pala. 15. Perform an AC voltage drop test on all rotating field poles. 16. Perform a high potential test on excitation systems in accordance with ANSI Standard 421.3. This standard applies to high potential testing of excitation systems and their components for synchronous machine. The purpose of this standard is to provide requirements and specific directions for the high potential testing of complete excitation systems and their components using the recent information manufacturers submit available. 17. Measure resistance of machine field winding, exciter stator winding, exciter rotor windings, and field discharge resistors. 18. Perform front to back resistance tests on the diodes and gating tests of silicon controlled rectifiers for field application of semiconductors. Which means nandito-test mo lahat ng semiconductors kung nakapag-resist ba sila, if yung silicon controlled rectifiers ba is naka-receive ng voltage, ganon. Prior to re-energizing, apply voltage to the exciter supply and adjust exciter field current to nameplate value. Ito yung nakalagay sa manufacturer's published data, which is, kumbaga, pwedeng nasa document or nasa blueprint. 20. Verify that the field application timer and the enable timer for the power factor relay have been tested and set to motor drive manufacturer's recommended values. Which means na dapat nasa standard lahat ng motor drive at na-test ito na nakakanga sa manufacturer recommended values. Next. 21. Record stator current, stator voltage, and field current for a complete acceleration period, including stabilization time for a normally loaded starting condition. From the recording, determine the following information. 1. Bus voltage prior to start. 2. Voltage drop at start. 3. Bus voltage at machine full load. 4. Lock rotor current. 5. After synchronization but before loading. 6. Current at maximum loading. 7. Acceleration time to near synchronous speed. 8. Revolutions per minute or RPM just prior to synchronization. 9. Field application time. 10. Time to reach stable synchronous operation. Next, please. 12. Plot a V curve of stator current versus excitation current at approximately 50% load to check correct exciter operation. 23. If the range of exciter adjustment and the machine loading permit, reduce excitation to cause power factor to fall below the trip value of the power factor relay. Verify relay operation. C. Test values, visual and mechanical. Inspection according to 7.15.2.a, number 4. Air baffle shall be cleaned and installed in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Which means na yung mga filter and air vents shall be cleaned to avoid overheating. 2. Filter media shall be cleaned and installed in accordance with manufacturer published data. 3. Cooling fan shall operate to avoid overheating again. Slip ring alignment shall be within manufacturer's published data. Internal parts. Brush alignment shall be within manufacturer's published tolerances, which is both slip rings and brush alignments are internal parts of the machinery. 6. Brush rigging shall be in accordance with manufacturer's data, which is to clean slip ring and brush alignment. Next. 2. Compare bolted connection resistance values to values of similar connections. Investigate any values that deviate from the similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value in accordance to 7.15.2.a.5 number 1. Number 3. Bolt torque levels should be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12 in accordance to 7.15.2.a.5 number 2. Results of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9, in accordance with 7.15.2.8.5 number 3. 5. Air gap spacing and machine alignment shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. Manufacturer's published data 7.15.2.A.6. D. Test values electrical. 1. Compared voltage connection resistance values to values similar connections. Investigate any values that deviate from similar voltage connections by more than 50% of the loss value. 2. Recommend the minimum insulation resistance or IR1M or minute test results in mega ohms shall be in accordance with table 111, which will be seen in the last part of our presentation. Next, the polarization index shall not be less than 2.0. Number 2, the dielectric absorption ratio shall not be less than 1.4. 3. If no evidence of distress or installation failure is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric resistance test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test, which means there is no problem with the machinery or with the equipment. 4. Investigate face-to-face stator resistance values that deviate more than 5%. 5. Power factor or dissipation factor values shall be compared to manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, these values will be compared with previous values of similar machines. 6. Tip-off values shall indicate no significant increase in power factor or dissipation factor. 7. If no evidence of distress, insulation failure, or lack of waveform nesting is observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the surge comparison test, the test specimen is considered to have passed the test. Next. 8. Insulation resistance of bearing shall be within manufacturer's published tolerances. In absence of manufacturer's published tolerances, the comparison shall be made to similar machines. 9. Test results of surge protection devices shall be in accordance with section 7.19 and 7.20. 10. The test results of motor starter equipment shall be in accordance with section 7.16. 11. The RTD circuit shall be in accordance with the system design, intent, and machine protection of device manufacturer's published data. 12. Heaters shall be operational. 13. Vibration amplitudes of uncoupled and unloaded machines shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, vibration amplitude shall not exceed values shown in Table 100.10. If values exceed those in Table 100.10, perform complete vibration analysis. (14) The recommended minimum insulation resistance or IR1 min test results in mega ohms shall be in accordance with Table 100.11. 15. The individual pole AC voltage drop shall not exceed 10% variance from the average value. Average value equals test voltage divided by number of coils, applicable to all the poles. 16. If no evidence of distress or installation failures observed by the end of the total time of voltage application during the dielectric resistance test, the winding is considered to have passed the test. The measured resistance of motor field windings, exciter stator windings, exciter rotor windings, and the field discharge resistor shall be compared to manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, the comparison shall be made to similar machines. 18. Resistance test results of diodes and gating tests of silicon controller rectifiers shall be in accordance with industry standards and system design requirements. 20. Application timer and enable timer for power factor relay test result shall comply with manufacturer recommended values. 21. Record values shall be in accordance with system design requirements. 22. Plotted values V curve shall indicate correct exciter operation. 23. When reduced excitation fall below the trip value for the power factor relay, the relay shall operate. 7.15.3 Rotating machinery, DC motors, and generators. 1. Compare equipment template data with drawings and specifications, which means na inspect the equipment to see if it is in accordance with the blueprint or in the paper. 2. Inspect physical and mechanical condition to see if the equipment or machinery is not missing any parts or not in one whole shape or it is missing parts. 3. Inspect arconage alignment and grounding. 4. Inspect air baffles, filled media, cooling fans, brush, and brush rigging. 5. Inspect bolted electrical connections for high resistance using one of the following methods. Next. Use of low resistance ohmmeter in accordance with section 7.15.3.b1. Verify tightness of accessible bolted electrical connections by calibrated torque wrench method in accordance with manufacturer's published data or table 100.12. 3. Perform thermographic survey in accordance to section 9. 6. Inspect commutator and tachometer generator. 7. Perform special tests such as air gap spacing, bar tightness of commutator, and machine alignment if applicable. If the rotor can be manually rotated, check for any obvious problems with the bearings or shaft. 9. If motor shaft can be rotated, measure and record the shaft extension runout. Next. B. Electrical tests. Number 1. Perform resistance measurements through bolted connections with the low resistance ohmmeter, if applicable, with the section 7.15.3.8.5 number 1. 2. Perform insulator resistance tests on all windings in accordance with ANSI or IEE standard 43. As I said earlier, measuring insulation resistance of armature and field windings. Rotating machines rated from 1 horsepower, 750 watts, or greater. 1. Machines larger than 200 horsepower or 150 kilowatts. Test duration shall be 10 minutes and calculated polarization index and shall not be lower than 2.0. 2. Machines 200 horsepower or using 150 kilowatts and less. Test duration shall be for 1 minute. Calculate the electric absorption ratio for 60-30 second periods and shall not be lowered by 1.4. 3. Perform AC or DC high potential test in accordance with NEMA MG. NEMA MG Section 1, Section 3.1 or IEE 95. Respectively in the field windings, armature interpoles, and compensating windings if applicable, and commutator. By standard IEE 95, the purpose of the standard is to provide uniform procedures for performing high direct voltage acceptance tests and routine maintenance tests on main ground insulation of windings of electric machines. Provide guidance in analyzing the variations in measured current versus applied voltage so that in condition of insulation can be more effectively assessed. Compare direct voltage testing with alternate voltage testing. Next slide. Perform an AC or DC voltage drop test on all field poles. Such 5. Perform a surge or impulse comparison test on the field and armature winding. 6. Perform armature commutative bar-to-bar resistance test. 7. If the motor has both shunt and series field windings, their relative polarity is to be checked and leads are to be marked appropriately, and since their relative polarity is to be checked, their polarity shall not be less than 2.0. 8. Measure armature running current and field current or voltage compared to nameplate typo. 9. Perform vibration test while machine is running under load. 10. Verify that all protective devices in accordance with section 7.16. C. Test values visual and mechanical. 1. Inspection 7.13.3.8.4. Air baffle shall begin installed in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 2. Filter media shall be cleaned and installed in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 3. Cooling fan shall operate to avoid overheating. 4. Commutator runout shall be within manufacturer's published tolerances, which means na may value na hindi mo pwedeng exceed eh hindi mo pwedeng babaan or hindi pwedeng mas lower pa sa value na yun. 5. Brush alignment shall be within manufacturer's published tolerances. 6. Raking shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. 2. Compared bolted connection resistance to values similar connections. Investigate any values that deviate from similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value in accordance with 7.15.3.8.5 number 1. Bolt torque level shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data. In the absence of manufacturer's published data, use table 100.12 in accordance to 7.15.3.8.5 number 2. 4. Results of thermographic survey shall be in accordance with section 9 in accordance to 7.15.3.8.5 number 3. 5. Commutator and tachymeter generator shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data and system designs in accordance to 7.15.3.8.6. 6. Air gap spacing and machine alignment shall be in accordance with manufacturer's published data in accordance to 7.15.3.8.7. D. Test values. 1. Compare bolted connection resistance values of similar connections. Investigate any values that deviate from similar bolted connections by more than 50% of the lowest value. 2. The recommended minimum insulation resistance or IR1M test results in mega ohm shall be in accordance with table 100.11. 3. If no evidence of distress or installation failure is observed by the end of the total time of the voltage application during the dielectric Wheatstone test, the windings is considered to have passed the test or it is on par standard. The individual pole-to-pole AC voltage drop shall not exceed 10% variance from the average value. Average value equals test voltage divided by the number of coils applicable to all the poles. 5. Measured running current and field current or voltage shall be comparable to nameplate data. 6. Vibration amplitudes of the uncoupled and unloaded machine shall not exceed the values in table 100.10. If values exceed in those table 100.10, perform complete vibration analysis. 7. Test results of motor starter equipment shall not be in accordance with section 7.16. 8. Investigate bar-to-bar resistance values of armature that deviate by more than 5%.
So now here are the tables that we are talking about earlier. Table 100.12.1, the bolt torque values for electrical connections. US standard fasteners, heat treated steel, cadmium or zinc plated. Ito makikita dito yung grade SAE 1 and 2, SAE 5, SAE 7, and SAE 8. Okay. Next is the table 100.12.2, US standard fasteners, silicon bronze fasteners, torque pound for 4 feet or feet. And next one is table 100.12.3, US standard fasteners, aluminum alloy fasteners. Next is table 100.12.4, stainless steel fasteners. You can see the bolt diameter in inches and the uncoated. Next is table 100.3 SF6 gas test. You can see the test method, serviceability, and serviceability limits. Next is table 100.20, which is the rated control voltages and their ranges for circuit breakers. Dito nyo makikita ang mga sizes for specific circuit breakers for specific sources po. And it's the continuation of table 100.20. You can also see the rated voltage, and you can see the rated control voltage and their ranges for circuit breakers, solenoid operated devices. You can see underneath is rated voltage and closing voltage ranges for power supplies. And this next one is table table 100.5, which is the transformer insulation resistance acceptance testing. You can see here the transformer coil rating type in volts, minimum DC test voltage, recommended minimum insulation resistance and mega ohms. Underneath is liquid filled and dry. Next one is table 100.9, which is the instrument transformer dielectric test field acceptance. Under this table is nominal system voltage in kV, DIL in kV, periodic dielectric withstand test, field test voltage in kV. Underneath is DC and AC. That's all for our report, which is NETA. Thank you.